Well, hey guys, Paul here. I'm so excited to be with you guys here again. If you don't mind, I'd like to show you two of my favorite shoes. Is that okay? You can't really say no because this is a recording, so I guess you could just pause it, but this is one of my favorite shoes of all time. I own them. This is the Ultra Lone Peak 4.5. These are my hiking shoes. I mentioned last week that I like hiking. These are the shoes that I use to go hiking with. They're durable. The grip on the bottom is super great. They're super lightweight. They're super comfortable for hiking. They're not the most stylish, but they're not terrible either. But these are my hiking shoes. Okay, that's shoe number one. Next, I'd like to show you another favorite of mine. These are the Air Jordan 1. Here, let me show it off for you. Ta-da! The Air Jordan 1. I got these shoes as a gift for my graduation a couple of years ago, and I love these shoes. I love the colors on them. I love the way this blue is and the way this like cream is. Oh, it's awesome. I wear these shoes maybe once every 6 months because I'm so worried about like scuffing them. I actually noticed a smudge on them earlier, and I kind of had a panic attack. But those are two of my favorite shoes. Now, you may be asking, why did I show you those shoes? No reason. I'm just kidding. Could you imagine I was just like showing off my shoes for no reason? No, I show you those two shoes because there's one thing that they have in common other than the fact that they're shoes. Those shoes cost about the same amount of money. Now, the Jordans were a gift, but those hiking shoes I saved up for a long time. They're about $160, which is a lot for a shoe, if I'm going to be honest. But I knew that I needed a good pair of shoes because I love to hike. And there's nothing worse than being on a mountaintop with a shoe that just fell apart and you got to walk barefoot. That's awful. And so I knew that this would be a worthy investment. Those shoes have been with me to Half Dome. They've been with me up to Mount Baldy just over there. Those shoes have been with me a lot of places. Now, you may be asking, why does it matter that they're the same amount of money? It's an important detail. And here's why it matters. They've earned their value in two different ways. Those hiking shoes, they've earned their value because they are durable. They are worth that money. Even if there was no market, I would still pay that much money because it provides a value. I know that they will do something for me. But to be honest, the Jordans, they're not like the most comfortable. If you ever worn shoes like that, they're not incredibly comfortable. They're fine, but as far as comfort, the hiking shoes take them every day. They're not the most durable either. Again, they're fine, but if I try to play basketball in them, it's going to hurt me. I'm probably going to rip them at some point. They're not going to do it for me. And so if they don't provide the same value, why is it worth the same amount of money? Again, if nobody knew who Michael Jordan was, if it was just a random shoe, they wouldn't be going for $160. They wouldn't be. They're nice, but they're not that nice, I'll be honest. Now, maybe there's some people in the room who are thinking that I'm like, I would pay twice that amount. People do. There's a whole third market just for sneakers like those that have no reason to be that expensive. So why are they? Simply put, let me find it again. Simply put, shoes like these are worth that amount because that's the price someone is willing to pay for them. And that's it. The only reason these shoes are worth this much is because that's the price someone is willing to pay for them. And if I were to put these up on eBay, let's say that this was the only pair of Jordans that ever existed, like all the other ones got wiped out. Do you know how much these would be? They would be incredibly expensive because that's the price someone is willing to pay. And there are shoes that are way, way more expensive. The Nike Air Mags, the Back to the Future shoe, they go for like $20,000. No pair of shoes should be worth $20,000, but yet they are because somebody wants them. And we learn a little bit about something in these shoes. We learn something called value. You see, last week we talked about pride, we talked about insecurity, and we talked about how actually we need to follow the balance of confidence versus humility. So why do I bring up these shoes? Because I think all the time we're stuck trying to bring ourselves value. We tell ourselves that our value comes from what we do. Our value comes from how we perform, from our performance. And if we perform worse, if we do worse, then our value goes down. What I want you guys to know right now, before we get into anything else, your value does not come from your performance. Your value comes from the price that someone is willing to pay for you. And guess what? God is the one who gives you your value. And the price he paid for you is high. The price he paid for you is his own son. And so when we walk around not knowing who we are, we need to remind ourselves that we are worth the price that someone has already paid for us. How does this help us? It helps us understand both our confidence and our humility. If we live a life of pride, we are constantly looking over our shoulder. We're constantly worried about people noticing us. We're constantly worried about people giving us the right amount of validation. We're constantly posting to get a certain amount of likes. Did you know that actually getting likes is not the healthiest thing either? Yeah, shocker, I know. But sometimes if you ever post something and it just doesn't do well, nobody likes it, you're like, oh, I feel terrible. Well, guess what? If you post something and it does really well, that's also not healthy for you, because that tells you that that's the thing you need to behave like. That's the thing that people like. And when we constantly looking for validation, either virtual likes or even like in real life, we constantly are seeking this validation. It is a burden. We're constantly thinking about, what do I need to do? How do I need to dress? What do I need to say to get this validation? It is a burden to live a life of pride because you're constantly going up and down. Do you know how long it took for me to get rid of my skinny jeans? Because when I was in high school, skinny jeans were the thing that made you popular. You were cool if you had skinny jeans. And I didn't throw away my skinny jeans till 2022, when someone finally said, skinny jeans are no longer in. You got to wear baggy jeans. And I said, can I just compromise and just get straight legged and I'll never have to worry again? It's such a burden to have to try and meet these trends and meet these things all the time. But it's also a burden to live a life of insecurity, to constantly be worried that people are going to notice me, to constantly hope that nobody says anything so that we can stand out. That is a burden. What does it look like when you live a life of confidence and humility? You live a life free of that burden. Jesus says this in Matthew 11. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. When we follow Jesus, we can free ourselves of that burden of having to please everybody all the time. That we can live a life of confidence, knowing that there is a God who already loves us. But we can live a life of humility, knowing that that God has chosen to love us, that we are getting that value from that God, not from ourselves. Last week, we looked at the story of David slaying Goliath, how David walked in confidence and humility in his life. Look at what David says to Goliath. When Goliath says, how dare you challenge me? David says, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel. David doesn't say my sword is bigger, my javelin is better. He doesn't say I'm a greater warrior. He says, I am serving the Lord Almighty. David's identity came from God, and he could live a life free of that burden. When we follow Jesus and when we draw our identity from God, we can find confidence knowing that that same God who who saved David, who David served, that same God is the one with us, empowering us, walking with us, and caring for us. When we follow Jesus, when we draw our identity from God, we can find humility, knowing that no matter how hard we try, our best is never going to be good enough, that our best is never going to live up to a standard of perfection. But also know that we don't have to live that life. We don't have to match that mark. We can be free from this burden. Maybe you've been walking around your schools, worried about meeting some level of expectation. Maybe the world has put this expectation on you. You have to do this. You have to do this. Guys, I'm going to be honest. I feel so sorry especially for juniors and seniors who are being told right now, you have to make a decision for the rest of your life. That you, at the age of 16, at 17, that decisions you make now, they're going to carry through for the rest of your life. So you better make a good decision, right? That's such a burden, and I'm sorry that that's one that's been placed on you. It's not fair. And you can recognize that that's not fair. And also know that there is a God who is not placing that expectation and that burden on you. Yes, God wants us to do our best, but God also knows that our best is never going to be good enough. And instead of seeing that as a reason to say, oh, well, we're nothing, we're worthless, we shouldn't be noticed, we shouldn't try at all. No, God says, I'm calling you to bigger things. I'm calling you to an identity, and I'm the one who is empowering you through that. In a world that says that your value comes from what you do, in a world that says that your value comes from how well you earn or how good you're performing, God says your value comes from the price that was paid for you. And that price is high, and that price is Jesus. Maybe you've never known that truth before. Maybe you've lived your life feeling this tension in your shoulders, this burden on your back. It feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Just know that that burden can be lifted. It can be lifted today. It can be lifted tomorrow as you go into your schools, as you go and talk to your friends. Know that you don't have to make them like you. You don't have to get that. Like, even if they don't approve of you, that's okay. That's not where you draw your confidence from. I heard this said, it said, the people who matter don't mind, and the people who mind don't matter. Like, your true friends, your true community will care for you because they will see you as a son or daughter of God. They won't care when you fail. They won't care when you mess up. That doesn't mean that you're free of consequences. Doesn't mean that like you're free from like living the best standard you can be. But what it means is that your identity does not come from those things. And so as we go to our small groups today, I want you guys to live like a Jordan, which is kind of, this is not where I was expecting this video to end. I'm going to be honest. I want you guys to live knowing that your confidence comes from a price that was paid for you. Not trying to have the best materials, not trying to have the best things, but knowing that somebody paid for you already. As we go to small groups, can we affirm one another? Can we create a community where that confidence is created and where that humility is constantly reminding us as well? Guys, I love you. I thank you so much for being with us, and I'll see you guys next week.